The body is already in bed, and yet the mind is still on duty. It keeps dragging the past back into the room. It turns the future into a field of wreckage before it has even arrived. It tears open old words, old glances, old mistakes that should have been allowed to sink quietly into the dark a long time ago. And then morning comes, and you wake with the strange feeling that something in you has already been drained. No one saw the struggle. From the outside, it was only an ordinary night, followed by an ordinary day. But some people do not wear down because life is visibly too heavy. They wear down because their own mind never truly releases them. So what exactly is overthinking taking from you, that even on days when nothing dramatic happens, you still feel as though you've crossed some deep and punishing darkness? To reach that answer, we have to step into the place where this exhaustion is actually made. Overthinking rarely enters a life with a loud noise. It does not kick the door. It does not announce itself as a crisis. It usually slips in through something small enough to look harmless. A message arrives later than usual. A reply feels shorter than it used to. Someone's face becomes unreadable for half a second. A meeting is waiting for you tomorrow. An old mistake resurfaces with no warning at all. That is often all it takes. One small opening and suddenly the mind lights up like a building where every alarm has gone off at once. From there, everything begins to move too quickly. One question breeds another. One doubt pulls a whole chain of darker possibilities behind it. One tiny detail is enlarged until it covers half the day. Think about how often this happens in quiet ways. You sit in front of a message, type something, delete it, rewrite it, soften it, reread it, and still do not press send. You are not just choosing words. You are trying to prevent an invisible disaster. You are trying to make sure that one sentence will not shift the temperature of a relationship, expose something embarrassing, sound needy, sound cold, sound foolish, sound wrong. It looks like hesitation, but inside it is labor. Or maybe you are washing dishes, walking home, showering, staring at the ceiling, and suddenly a moment from the past returns with far more force than it deserves. A sentence you said, a look someone gave you, a version of yourself you wish had known better. You replay it again and again, as if repetition might somehow change the outcome, as if enough analysis might finally produce the perfect verdict. But it never really does. It only deepens the groove. That is part of what makes overthinking so brutal. It does not merely consume time, it consumes vitality. It does not only fill the mind, it charges the body for events that have not happened or can no longer be changed. Because the body is not nearly as good at making that distinction as we like to imagine. If the mind rehearses danger vividly enough, the chest still tightens, the jaw still locks, the shoulders still rise, the stomach still clenches, the breath still shortens, as though something real is approaching. You do not need to be running through an actual catastrophe to become exhausted. You only need to be dragged through enough inner simulations alone. That is why some days feel so confusing. On the surface, nothing especially demanding happened. You answered a few messages, you went to work, you attended class, you smiled when needed, you did what was necessary to appear functional. To everyone else, you looked more or less fine. But when the day gives you back to yourself, you realize that something inside has been worn thin. Another task feels unbearable. A small decision feels strangely heavy. Even the sound of a notification can make your whole body dip for a second. The hardest part is that this kind of exhaustion has no obvious shape. If you had carried boxes all day, people would understand why your body hurt. If you had lived through a major loss, people would understand why your energy collapsed. But when you have only been thinking, replaying, anticipating, bracing, doubting, revising, and silently cross-examining yourself, the fatigue becomes difficult to explain. And because it is difficult to explain, it is easy for other people to underestimate. After a while, you begin to underestimate it too. You ask whether you are simply weak, too sensitive, too fragile, too dramatic, unable to cope with what everyone else seems to handle. But that may not be the truth at all. It may be that you have been living too long in a state of internal surveillance. Internal surveillance means constantly scanning for what might be wrong. It means checking other people's faces for signs of disappointment. It means reviewing your own behavior before anyone else has the chance to. It means trying to predict pain early enough to avoid being blindsided by it. It means treating uncertainty as something that must be solved immediately, rather than something a human being might simply have to endure for a while. And once the mind grows used to living that way, it forgets how to unclench. It forgets how to leave the doorway unguarded. It forgets that not every silence is a threat, not every pause a judgment, not every mistake a prophecy. From the outside, this can look like maturity, carefulness, responsibility, thoughtfulness. It can even look admirable. You seem like someone who reflects deeply, prepares thoroughly, tries not to hurt anyone, tries not to fail, tries not to let things fall apart. That is why overthinking is so easy to misread, even by the person living inside it. It wears a face of conscientiousness, but if the price of that conscientiousness is insomnia, dread, bodily tension, paralysis, emotional depletion, and a life that feels heavier than it looks, then something else is happening. It is no longer thoughtfulness, it is erosion. Its mechanism is often cruelly simple. A trigger appears. From that trigger comes a thought. From that thought comes a feeling. From that feeling comes behavior. Checking, rehearsing, avoiding, over-preparing, withdrawing, apologizing in advance, accusing yourself before anyone else can. And then those behaviors teach the mind the wrong lesson. They tell it, yes, this was dangerous after all. Yes, you were right to be alarmed. Yes, next time you should scan earlier. Think harder, guard longer. And that is how the loop closes. This is why procrastination is not always laziness. Sometimes a person has already traveled too far in their head before taking the first real step. This is why avoidance is not always cowardice. Sometimes the imagined consequences have become so inflated that the body chooses retreat as if it were a matter of survival. This is why some people seem cold, distant, or hard to reach. Not because they feel nothing, but because the inside of them is already too crowded, too vigilant, too overworked, to hold much more. Still, there's something crucial that has to be said here. Overthinking does not usually grow out of nowhere. Very often, it is a form of protection that has gone too far. Perhaps you once lived in an environment where small mistakes carried real consequences. Perhaps you learned to read other people's moods before they spoke, because it felt safer that way. Perhaps you were judged too quickly, so your mind learned to judge you first. Perhaps you were hurt by something you did not see coming, and ever since then your system has believed that enough anticipation might prevent the next wound. In that sense, overthinking is not proof that you enjoy making your life difficult. It may simply be evidence of a nervous system that became too accustomed to standing guard. The tragedy is that this form of protection is terribly expensive. It tries to save you by never letting you soften. It tries to keep you safe by refusing to let your body believe the danger is past. It becomes a watchman that no longer knows when to go home. And this is where the first real strand of light begins to appear. Not a blinding light, not the kind that wipes out all darkness in an instant, just a narrow, honest light, enough to reveal the edges of the room. enough to show that the mind is not the whole landscape, and that you are not required to win against every thought in order to breathe again. The first step is not forcing yourself to stop thinking. That usually becomes one more violent struggle inside the same prison. The first step is recognizing the loop while it is happening. A simple moment of noticing can already change the structure of the experience. Not, how do I solve this completely right now? But, I am being pulled into the loop again. Not, what if all of this is true? But, what here is an actual fact and what is fear filling in? That difference matters more than it seems. The fact may be simple. They have not replied yet. That is all. Everything after that. They are upset with me. I have ruined something. I am about to lose this. Tomorrow will collapse. Maybe the mind painting shadows onto a wall and calling them evidence. Once you can separate the event from the interpretation, even slightly, the room inside you gains a little air. Then comes something even quieter and often more powerful, returning to the body. Not as an abstract idea, but as an anchor. Your feet against the floor, cool water against your hands, your back against the chair, the slow and unremarkable fact of breath, entering and leaving, light falling across a table, a cup warming your palms. These details sound almost too small to matter. But what drags a person out of inner catastrophe is often not a brilliant thought. It is contact with something real enough, immediate enough, solid enough to interrupt the momentum of the spiral. After that, the question changes again. Not, how do I stop being an overthinker forever? But, what is the smallest honest action available to me now? Write one clear sentence, send one brief message, wash your face, stand up, finish one small piece of the task instead of demanding certainty before you begin. Small actions do not erase darkness at once, but they do weaken its authority. They remind the mind that life is not only happening in imagined futures or endless postmortems of the past. Life is also happening in the next true movement of the body. And sometimes that is where the return begins. There is one more place where light has to enter, the voice you use against yourself. Many people have lived so long with an inner voice that sounds harsh, exacting, relentless, that they no longer hear how violent it has become. The moment they falter, it arrives. It calls them weak, it calls them ridiculous. It orders them to think harder, do better, feel less, control more. But a mind that is already overloaded does not become wiser through punishment. It becomes more frightened, more clenched, more desperate for control. Sometimes what saves a person is not a sharper analysis, but a less brutal tone. None of this means the darkness disappears overnight. These patterns are rarely built in a day, which means they rarely dissolve in one either. But the moment you stop reading your exhaustion as proof of personal failure, something important shifts. The moment you understand that you are tired not because you are defective, but because you have been bracing for too long, monitoring too much, carrying too many invisible rehearsals inside your body, the darkness loses some of its claim over you. And if you begin to recognize that the exhaustion is lasting, that sleep is breaking apart night after night, that anxiety is eating into the structure of daily life, that functioning itself is becoming difficult, reaching for professional support or a trustworthy person is not weakness, it is not surrender. It is one way of refusing to stay alone in a room that has gone too dark for too long. In the end, perhaps the answer is not think less. Human beings are not built for that. The answer may be closer to this. Not every thought deserves authority. Not every fear is a prophecy. Not every mistake needs to be exhumed and tried again. And lying still is not the same thing as resting if the mind is still hunting you through the dark. Real rest begins when you stop pursuing yourself inside your own head. Real peace does not arrive on the day life finally becomes easy. It arrives in the moment when, inside a long, dark corridor, you still find one narrow beam of light honest enough to show that you have not lost your way back. So if you feel exhausted today, even though it seems as though you did almost nothing at all, the truth may not be that you are useless or weak or failing at life. It may simply be that something inside you has been fighting for far too long in a place no one else could see, and from the moment you name that darkness clearly, the way out has already begun to take shape. Because in the end, what saves a person is not forcing the mind to stop, but no longer chasing yourself through it. And if you need a place to remember that, return to Mind Psypher, where we slow down just enough for you to find, even in the noisiest inner days, one small beam of light that is still your own.